Hi, I'm Matt.
Hey there, I'm Bianca.
And in this episode, we're interviewing Dave and Morgan, who are going to be talking about their relationship with Christianity and swinging.
That's right, so keep watching.
So welcome back, you two.
Hi.
Hello.
Good to be back.
So if you did not see our last one, we interviewed you and we talked about your evolution and change in swinging. And speaking of evolution, let's go the other direction. We just had a conversation, you and I, Morgan, and I had no idea that you are, would you consider you're very religious?
Practicing Christian.
Practicing Christian. Okay, so we're based out of the Seattle, Washington area. So we go to Florida many times a year to the Southeast, where the Bible Belt, where we do interview and talk to a lot of people that religion is a much larger aspect of society than it is here in the Pacific Northwest. So the conversation doesn't come up very often, but I love to be able to talk to someone who actually is okay being on camera and will talk about the fact that, as far as I'm aware, everything in the Bible says this isn't okay, but I don't know the Bible because I didn't read it. Too much begodding. So tell me, so have you always been Christian or
raised that way? Yeah.
Raised that way, okay. And what denominations or
General Protestant. I grew up Baptist. I'm definitely not Baptist anymore. That's a little extreme.
either?
Now we're Methodist.
Mm-hmm. And I grew up United Methodist. In my college years, I went Presbyterian for a while, and then we found a Methodist church again with where we moved to. It's really interesting because United Methodist is definitely the most liberal of all of the Protestant churches.
Okay.
And that was fantastic growing up in that because it was very much about love and what is Christ teaching us. And it was a lot less about what are the rules of you can't wear pants if you're a woman, or you shouldn't speak in public, or the man is the head of the household and the woman should bow to him, and sort of all those kinds of things that can be in some religious teachings.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it was really about how we treat each other and how we interact here for moving on to heaven.
Okay.
Afterwards. And then the Presbyterian side is very intellectual, which Bianca knows that I like that. But it would dive into the historical context of a biblical script and what was going on in history in that area, in that culture that drew this text out. And I thought that was really fascinating and really helpful to me. But it was interesting for me because through all of that, I mean, I gave my first sermon when I was 12. I considered going to seminary instead of college, literally was looking at brochures and considering those. And I felt called to go somewhere else to do other things with my career. But all through my 20s, before I met this handsome gentleman, I was having sex. And to me, having sex without my husband is a rule imposed by men who are trying to control women, not about what Christ has taught us and how God has called us to interact and treat each other. And so whether I'm married and we're swinging, or whether I was single and out playing the field, it really boils down to being judged for having sex with someone who's not my husband. Mm-hmm. And I just don't believe in that judgment. I think that is not based in God's teaching. And so I just don't think that it actually clashes with being a swinger any more than it clashed with me being a player as a single gal.
Okay. Now, when you first got into swinging, did the conversation about religion come up?
I don't think it really did. No, for us, it was never a question of is this permitted? Is this okay? Because we both felt it was. And Morgan's kind of right, because there are many places where the Bible talks about women should not do this. When, if she's an adulteress, she should be stoned, right? But at the same time, you have guys that are, oh, this is a holy, devout man of God, and he got this prostitute pregnant. And that's perfectly fine because he was such a good man. Is it? I don't think that's how that's supposed to work. And I don't know, so my take on it would be more like there are some good lessons. Maybe we don't always take the right moral away that we should have.
Okay.
There are plenty of passages that I'm like, that we have learned the wrong lesson from this story. I don't think that's what God meant.
Yeah.
But there are plenty of those, and I feel like most of it is written that way. Is this should be an example of maybe what you should do, or maybe this was an example where somebody screwed up and you should not do that. But it's not saying word for word, this is literal. Like, this is how everything happened. This is how it must be forever and ever.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You're like, okay. I mean, many sources would say that the Bible was probably written down earliest, maybe 700-800 BC, roughly. But oral tradition, thousands of years earlier.
Yeah.
And if you take an oral tradition that's thousands of years old, like, okay, these are stories, these are metaphors, these are examples.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really taking it at face value word for word.
Yeah.
Especially not when the whole thing was redone in 120 something AD.
This is where Dave gets into facts.
They literally took all the scrolls and writings and put them together in a book and this is the book. This is the Bible. That other stuff doesn't count. You're like, why though? Like, a bunch of dudes put it together.
How I totally get what you're saying. I do know that a lot of people will say, no, the Bible is literal,
Mm-hmm.
and you should follow it word for word. So to those people who believe that, what would you say the connection would be that it would be okay with God for you to be doing something like this?
Yeah.
Well, I would say if you're going to literally believe everything has to be true, if you've ever eaten a cheeseburger, you've sinned because you're not supposed to have your meat and your dairy in the same dish.
Sure.
Like, okay, so if you're willing to break those rules, where do you draw the line? So eating food, that's okay. We're going to break those rules. When it comes to sex, that's not okay. We can't break those rules.
And it's interesting when you look at the text, there's nothing in Christ's teaching that talks about these types of relationships at all.
Right.
And in fact, he befriends a prostitute who is shunned by society. And he befriends other people who are seen as wrong in that society. And he says, hey, no, I'm not shunning these people. These are being judged too harshly by man's laws, and that's not what God cares about. God cares about how are you treating each other. And when you look at further text in the New Testament, post-Christ, a lot of the text that people will point to as, oh, this says you shouldn't have this type of sex. This says you shouldn't have that kind of a relationship with that type of a person. When you look at the whole text, that's actually that person saying, man, the world's going to end in 2 years. No one should have sex. We should all be praying and meditating to prepare for the end of the world. And you're like, okay, so that text isn't actually saying sex is bad. It's not saying this type of sex is bad. It's not saying these types of sex between these people are bad. It's saying we should be paying attention to something else.
Okay.
And for a particular purpose. And so when you look at those different pieces, it's not saying that sex is inherently bad. And I truly believe that God designed our bodies. He designed us. He designed humans completely separately from how he designed the other animals and fish and everybody else, right?
Okay.
He designed my clitoris, okay?
And it's very complicated.
It's true. He wanted you guys to work for it. But I mean, I think that he gave us sexual bodies. I think that he gave us pleasure. I think that he gave us opportunities to connect with each other. And I don't think that was just about procreation. I think that we wouldn't need anywhere near as many beautiful pleasure endings if the procreation was the only purpose for that. And you even see out in other creatures in nature that it's not just about procreation, and it's not just about sex, and it's not just about who is interacting and doing that, but it's truly about connecting with someone else. It's about building something together, whether that's 10 minutes, whether that's 10 years. And that's really what I think those texts are saying. And what I struggle with is when religious leaders take those texts out of context. And that's something even when we were dating, when we decided to start being serious and think about being life partners, I said, well, church is really important to me. We need to go church shopping together. And Dave is very, very strong in what he believes, but is not going to rock the boat too much.
Okay.
So when we were sitting through a sermon and I looked at him and
It was
said,
a new church. Right.
yeah.
I'm not on board with this, but I'm not going to like stand up in the middle of the service and walk out. Like,
And I did. And I said, hey, Dave, I want this church to know that we're not becoming members because of this message. I don't want there to be any question of this church, of why didn't we join? And I made Dave stand up with me and walk out of the church down the center aisle in the middle of the service. Bianca's like freaked out thinking about it.
I mean, it was
looking at you.
this was very much one of those cases where the preacher is standing up front about how women need to submit to their husbands because the man runs the house. And sometimes the man's angry and you just got to deal with it. And sometimes the man wants to fuck and you're like, well, you just better give it to him because he runs the house. And I don't think that's consent. No, I'm not cool with that.
It's not
cool with
So did you grow up with very religious households? Like, did you ever have any moments growing up where you were taught that sex was, not okay, or just between husband and wife or anything like that? Like, how did you overcome that and become
I
who you
didn't.
are?
I got married at 18 and that was a really stupid choice.
To have sex.
To have sex.
He got married at 18 with his
This is a
first
really
girlfriend
bad
so that he could have
choice.
sex.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
So what would you say to people who are watching, because when this is a comment that we do get often about swingers and generally from religious people, is you're having affairs. Why bother getting married?
Yeah.
Because you are breaking one of the 10 commandments. I do know that. Adultery is one of them, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. I do know one. Okay. Good. Don't covet the neighbor's wife or something like that. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Technically, he doesn't want another wife.
Well, and this goes back to the last video we were talking to you guys about how we would get jealous, right? And so for us, the marriage and in that is more of the emotional connection, the life connection. We are partners. We're not sharing our lives with anyone. And obviously this is our perspective. There are probably people that do that.
Yeah.
But for us, we were committed in that way. We are each other's life partners. We're not sharing our hearts with anybody else.
Okay.
And that's where jealousy, we were talking about the last episode, that would happen if we felt somebody was getting more attention or more of a priority in our partner's life. That would be an issue, where sex is just fun.
So from your perspective, you consider sex to be really about the enjoyment of it, not necessarily about the connection that you and a partner may have while having sex.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And our
there's a
vows-
connection, but not like a emotional. I'm gonna move in with you. I love you. Like,
Yeah.
no, we're not here for that.
But I mean, there are some people who do. And again, as Dave said, we're not at all saying that they're wrong and we're right and they can't be Christians too. But really, it's about, we made a promise to each other in front of God. We had a pastor. We had a religious ceremony for our wedding. And for us, we're still abiding by that promise to each other. We are standing with each other against the world, with the world. We are walking our path together. We're raising our daughter together. And we really are. We're still practicing Christians. We go to church. We interact. I volunteer at the church. And we're not breaking those vows by also dancing with other people and flirting with other people and having sex with other people and going out to the opera with a friend. And all of those things to us are not breaking those things. And to me, I worry about a marriage that is so based in that rule that all of a sudden it's like, oh, you don't have any choice in your life. And to me, the people who say that about swinging, that same, you're either married or you're not, applies to victims of domestic assault, applies to just someone gets married at 18 when they don't know what they're doing, and it is a horrible relationship and they should get out. And so it fascinates me how much people will say, oh, swinging is wrong, having sex outside of marriage is wrong, having an abortion is wrong, while they personally are on their third spouse. They have had partners who have had abortions. They have done all sorts of things that aren't tenets, and they're using the Bible to create judgment. When you look at the Bible, God said, I am the judge.
Mhm.
Don't judge others thinking that you can step in my place. You don't know them. You don't know their hearts. And so that's the part for me of, I truly feel that God knows my heart, and that he knows who I am and where I am in the world. And that is the most important part about Christianity, is having that personal relationship with God and Christ.
Hmm.
And so how I interact in the world, absolutely, I follow what I truly believe are their tenets. I am loving my neighbor. I am caring for others who don't have as much as I do. And those are the tenets that I think are the important things to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
And I apply that in the lifestyle. I am approachable and welcoming, and I am caring for people. And to me, that truly is carrying that love and joy forward.
Mhm.
And that's my soapbox.
So not too long ago, I went on ChatGPT,
Mhm.
and I said, because someone was saying something very religious to a comment on one of our videos, and they were using Bible verses.
Mhm.
I said, okay, ChatGPT, give me some Bible verses that would be pro swinging.
Right.
Come up with that. The only one it came up with was "Love thy neighbor." It's just, yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
But I tend to believe that there's actually a lot more religious people in the lifestyle than would admit it. And of course, these conversations don't really come up when you're at a
Right.
true. Other than I do hear from the playroom a lot. Oh God, oh God, oh God. So different kind of praying.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for really giving us this concept, because it's something that we don't know too much about, but we do talk to a lot of people that have a relationship with God, and they want to, or people that are watching and are like, I'd love to do this, but this just seems like it's not okay.
Mhm.
And there are a lot of people who have found that connection, like you have, in saying, yes, this is okay for us. It may not be okay for you. It may not be okay for your situation,
Yeah.
because definitely the lifestyle is not okay for everybody.
No. Yeah.
But there are ways that you can find it and still feel your connection with God, and still feel connection to your religion, and not feel like you are doing something wrong. And so we really, really appreciate you giving us your concept on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing something so personal with us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I really
you bet.
appreciate that.
And I think, like you said, it is something that is way more common and nobody wants to talk about.
Mhm.
Like you've mentioned, you travel down to the Bible Belt, and there's a lot of swingers clubs.
Oh,
out
Yeah,
there.
there are more.
They
Actually,
are
Yeah.
packed.
Yeah.
They are packed. And people like us exist.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think mostly people don't talk about it because of that stigma.
Yeah. So talk about it more. Talk about it more. Absolutely.
more.
It's something you have in common. Really. I mean, that's okay if it is something you've come with someone else. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
So yeah.